Hey, good Wednesday morning, everybody. It's meteorologist Brad Panovich. We got to talk about Halloween because that's all everyone's talking about. And I wish I had better news for you today. As I kind of anticipated yesterday, I think that severe weather threat is actually going to be a little bit higher as we get closer because the timing of the front, folks, is not really improving, both for impacting trick-or-treating, but also maximizing, unfortunately, the ingredients for severe weather. So let's start first with what's happening today. And if you've been out and about, it's not a downpour today, but we've got light showers, misty, drizzly kind of stuff. And that's really what's happening right now across most of the Carolinas. And again, this will be the pattern today. Light rain, drizzle, and mist. As we get later to tonight, we will see the heavier rain back to the west. And you could see it. There's some really heavy rain down here in parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia is going to move in this general direction. And the heaviest rain will fall in the mountains and foothills, but we'll see a couple periods of heavy rain, I think, move across the Piedmont. You can actually see down here in eastern Mississippi and parts of Alabama, looks like one of those little mesolows, which is just a small scale little low pressure system that's enhancing the rainfall there. Actually, a couple flash flood warnings. The big front is still back to the west. I know you see the stationary front, but there's actually an Arctic front right here, which is going to merge with this front later tonight, and it's going to become one big front that's going to push to the east. Now, that's the main front. You see this warm front down here? This will be traveling north ahead of the front, and the combination of the two could really enhance the severe weather risk across the Carolinas. So I'm going to stop this real quickly, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the radar data, and what I'm going to do is turn on the severe weather outlook for today. And you can see the severe weather outlook today in the low range, ahead of the front where we've got that low and the warm front coming north. But watch what happens tomorrow as the system gets closer to the mid-Atlantic and the Carolinas. You can see now we've got a medium threat for severe storms across the western Carolinas up into Virginia. The one little caveat I'll say about the Carolinas is I actually think the higher threat for severe storms could be right in here. So if anything, maybe that threat shifts a little farther north, but we're clearly in that threat down here across the western Carolinas, including the Charlotte metro area. Here's a close-up view of that. You can see every single county is in that medium threat for severe storms today. And what is the main threat? Well, I'll show you what that main threat is. It's damaging straight-line winds. The main concern would be strong winds along the front. But if we get storms to develop ahead of the front, this tornado threat could go up a little bit, and I'll show you why that could happen, but primarily damaging winds. And again, I know people get freaked out by tornadoes, and I completely understand it, but remember, you're about 10 times more likely to be impacted by straight line winds than a tornado. And when you're out and about with kids walking around under trees with decorations all over, just a 30, 40 mile an hour wind can cause a lot of stuff to fly around, so it makes it very dangerous to be out and about. Here's the timing, and again, this has not changed all that much, except for I really think the evening hours will be the main concern here, and you can see where I have it highlighted. I actually have red. So this goes from low to very high. Right now, I'm kind of right in that medium range. I do have a couple hours in that 6, 7 o'clock time frame that I think we could see some severe storms. So something I certainly am going to be keeping a close eye on as we get closer to tomorrow night. So let's break down the model data. All right, let's get right to the futurecast. So this is what our short range models. We run these about every 6 to 12 hours, and these are the short range, or what we call kind of a convective allowing models. They show us thunderstorm activity really well. We rerun these all the time, so they self-correct as they see what's going on with the radar. So this is the latest run of what we call the NAM3 this morning. You can see the pockets of heavy rain that'll be around this afternoon. So it's a pretty soggy day, especially this evening. So let's go through tonight. We'll stop this around midnight on Halloween morning. So you can see rain around most of the Carolinas. We'll go through the day. We'll get towards sunrise on Halloween. A couple things you notice. The heavier rain's back in the mountains, but we're getting to break up a little bit in Charlotte and the Piedmont. But look at the line of storms developing to the west. We've got strong southerly winds developing here. It'll be a breezy day, very warm and muggy for Halloween. Highs could approach 80 degrees or at least get very close to it. And it will feel very sticky around here because of all that increased humidity and warm air surging in from the south. So we'll go through and stop this around lunchtime on Halloween. So you can see at some point it looks like the rain might actually break up. And so the middle of the day, we might see thinning the clouds, which isn't going to be a good thing because that's going to add instability. But you can see the line of storms developing back to the west. I'm going to stop this at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So 3 o'clock in the afternoon, kids are getting out of school. It might be a decent start to trick-or-treating. And you might be able to get out, but watch what happens as we go into the evening. 4:20, 5:30, we've got strong storms moving into the mountains. And here's the one interesting thing that I'm a little worried about is, do we get storms develop out here? There's a possibility, if there's enough instability, there could be isolated storms developing ahead of the main line. Let's hope that doesn't happen, but that's a possibility. By 6:30, the line of storms is moving through the foothills and down into the Piedmont, and right at about 7:30 to 8 o'clock. And again, don't get caught up in specific times. You can't time these out like this. These things can pick up just a couple miles per hour or slow down, and it changes where they are by a few hours, especially when you're talking about such a small time frame. But look at that line of storms moving right across the Piedmont. Now, this is one piece of guidance showing it moving through fairly quickly by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and by midnight it's gone. So you could see the time frame is not ideal. Now, let me show you another piece of short range guidance that is a little bit quicker, just by just a hair. I'm going to go through today, and I'm going to stop this again tomorrow morning at about 8 a.m. So 8 a.m. looks very similar. Things are drying out across Charlotte. And again, in case you're wondering, Charlotte's right there. The mountains are here. You can see the scattered storms in the mountains. We'll go into the afternoon. I'll stop this about 2 p.m. on Halloween. And you can see that line of storms developing to the west. Same as our last piece of guidance. Things are clearing out. But you see these little green returns. This is what I'm worried about. Isolated storms that could develop ahead of the main line. We'll go to 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock. So 4 o'clock, look at that nasty line. And embedded in there are some stronger cells. 5 o'clock. This is 5 p.m. The line is moving in, but you see these broken little dots ahead? That's what we'll have to watch tomorrow. 6 o'clock, it's right over us. So in both models, you're talking about an hour or an hour and a half, 2 hour difference, but it's really that evening time frame as the line moves through. And this will be a nasty line by 7 o'clock, and by 8 o'clock, it's pushing through the sandhills. And by, then we run out of model time here, just to let you know. So that's where it is around 8 p.m. on Halloween. 7, 6, 5. So 5 to 6, I mean, that is not great timing. That's why I said the timing isn't any better. So let me show you a severe weather parameter I look at for rotating storms, just to see if there will be some. And there are hints of some rotating storms. Nothing off the charts, but a couple up here in Virginia definitely have my attention. The helicity values we look at, which are basically another sign of shear, pretty strong shear with this. So there's a lot of ingredients for this to be a very potent line of storm. So this is why this chart is crucially important. That time frame is still right when trick-or-treating is going on. And again, damaging straight line winds are our biggest concern, but we cannot rule isolated tornadoes. So I guess the bad news in all this is nothing's looking better for Halloween. It's actually looking just a hair worse, with the damaging wind threat increasing just a little bit as we go into Halloween. So, of course, I'll keep updates going on. Make sure, please have a weather plan, a severe weather plan that keeps your kids indoors and away from this. Either go earlier, go later, postpone to Friday, keep them inside, something like that. You got to have a plan, because walking around in the neighborhood blocks from your house or blocks from your car and a bad storm hits is not an ideal situation. So please have a severe weather and rain plan for Halloween. Of course, I'll have updates online, on air, throughout the next 24 hours.